Welcome, Annie Collins here for the Makers Movement. Today we'll be creating the Slimline Halloween card. Let's go with some of the products I use to create this card. The Spooky Buds die set. It has three ghosts and little extra faces to change their expressions. The Trick and Treats paper pad, and I'm going to use this diagonal stripe paper. The Trick or Treat Yourself stamp and die set, and I'm going to pull it in just for the witch's hat and the die that coordinates with it. The Slimline Essentials, I'm going to use the scallop die and the smaller inner layering die for this. I'm going to use that for our card base, our layering cardstock, and our pattern paper. Our card base is 110 pound white, our layering is 65 pound green, and of course our pattern paper. A scrap of black for the eyes and mouth of our ghost, accent 80 pound cardstock for our hat, and from my stash the B and O letters to create our sentiment, which will be Boo. I will later on bring in some more cardstock for that. In the BV family, have BV00, BV01, and 202. For our hat, some barely art glue to adhere everything, and our shaker bits in Trick or Treat and Witch's Brew to accent our card. So let's go ahead and get started on our project. First thing we're going to do is die cut all of our pieces and stamp and die cut our witch's hat. So as you can see here, my Slimline die is longer than my 6x6 paper pad. All I'm going to do is going to cut this twice, and then I'll just marry the edges or merge the edges to create the fill in the panel. Here are our ghosts, and now I'm going to stamp our witch's hat so that we can stamp and die cut that. I also here have the two pieces for our card base and a layering cardstock. I'm going to set everything aside so I can stamp, like I said, our witch's hat. I'm going to use Memento ink and Tuxedo black because it's a Copic friendly ink. And then I'll go ahead and color our hat quickly with the BV families of BV00, BV01, and BV02. And I also brought in a little bit of orange color, which is YR12 for the band of our hat here. I forgot to pull that earlier, so I grabbed it really quick. I'm going to color this really quickly, and then we'll die cut it using the coordinating die from our Trick or Treat Yourself, which is from a previous release. But I thought this little witch hat would be perfect to make one of our little ghosts a witch. Excuse me. These ghosts are super cute because they have the expressions they come with, but then they have additional expressions that you can go ahead and change out. So maybe you don't want them all to be so friendly. Maybe you want them to be a little more spooky. Well, then you have a variety of shapes for their eyes. You would just cut those out of black cardstock and adhere them to your ghost. Alright, so our hat is finished. I'm going to go ahead and get our coordinating die, and I pulled the scrap purple cardstock and more black cardstock for our sentiment. I'm going to bring in our mini maker die cutting machine here, and previously I used my crossover edge 2 to cut out everything, but for these little things I like to use my mini maker here. So I'm going to put a piece of washi tape on our hat, and on our letters here I'm going to cut these out twice. Once, excuse my mess there, once from the purple cardstock and then once from the black cardstock. So I'm going to run these all through the mini maker really quick. And I have my sandwich, which is the B plate, the metal shim, and my A plate. Quickly run that through. Get it straight and run it through, I should say. Alright, now that I have that, here is my hat. And I'll show you quickly how nicely I cut the B. And now we're going ahead and save us all some time and finish the die cutting off screen. There are all our letters, and now we can proceed to put our card together. So first thing we're going to do is put our card base together. Since we cut these two pieces out of the heavyweight cardstock, I'm going to go ahead and create a score line about a half an inch in, or between the first and second scallop, if you want to go that way. And I'm just going to run it down all the way to the end and repeat it on the other side because I have my smaller scoreboard here. And then I'm just going to work on reinforcing that crease there, or that score, folding it both ways so that my card opens easily and not stiff. I'm going to bring in some Barely Art glue and adhere our two panels together. I'm going to just put the glue on that there, just above the score line. If you put it below, then your card will seal shut. Then you actually have a postcard. So now I'm going to line this up, making sure my panels are correct, and I'm going to just press and reinforce that area there with my bone folder to make sure it adheres. And then you have your stop folding slimline card. Now I'm going to go ahead and adhere my 65-pound weight green cardstock as my layering cardstock to our card base. And I could have left it white on the background because there is white in the pattern paper, but I wanted that little pop of green, in there, since I have the purple working in there and the orange. All right, so I'm going to adhere this to our card base. I'm sorry you can hear my dog in the background. He's decided to visit me right now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put this, center it, and then I'm going to do my best to just measure it out and marry it or line it up. I'm going to see, okay, I try both ways, like, okay, I'll do my best to marry it, to merge it, make it look seamless. Go ahead and make a little mark as to where I need to cut, and I'll just trim that little edge off. Bring in my mini trimmer here, and then I'm going to go ahead and adhere this. I'm going to cover that seam with my larger ghost so that won't be so noticeable. I'm going to add some Barely Art glue to the back, making sure I put plenty because, like I said, this paper is a little bit on the glossy side. It's almost like a semi-gloss. If paper could be semi-gloss, but anyway, it is. And so I want to make sure I have plenty of glue for it to stay onto my card. So I get that to line up as much as possible and to butt up against one another. Once I have that there, I press it in place. And like I said, my bigger ghost will go on there. And that will hide my seam pretty well. So first, before I adhere my ghost, I want to put some black cardstock behind our ghost to fill in their eyes and their mouth. I'm going to trim off the extra, put a little adhesive on the back of the ghost, and adhere our little pieces here. Now you can cut your ghost twice and then do an inlay, but this was the quicker for me to do option. All right, I'm going to go do the same thing here, and he has the little angry face, which I think is adorable. I know. I had a cat that always had an angry face. I thought he was the cutest thing. Okay, so this little ghost here, his little arm, it actually pops up so you can attach something to it. I will show you what I'm going to add later on to that. So this one here, the little eyes is shut. It's almost like she has a little smiley face going on. And just have an opening for her mouth. So I'm going to add a little black cardstock to the back of that. Going to pull out our sentiment, the B's and the O's here. Oh, before I do that, I want to add her hat to my little witch ghost. So I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive, liquid adhesive right there to the top. And this is where I bring in the C1. Just add a little shadowing so it looks more natural. Add a little shadowing beneath the brim and on the side of the ghost. And then I proceed to do the same to the rest of the ghost. So you can barely see it here, but you will in the close-ups of the card. Put some on the under the arms of this little ghost here, and the same thing with this one on the side, the little scallop under the little arms, and a little bit around his head. And I figured I better do that to the big guy too here. And then I'll accent that more with my sparkle pen later on. All right, so now we're going to bring in our sentiment. I cut this twice because when I cut laid the purple paper or the cardstock on my pattern paper. It kind of got lost a bit, so that's why I brought in the black. So what I'm going to do is create a shadow effect. I'm going to overlay the purple over our black letter, and you create this cool shadow effect on there. So I'm going to proceed to do the same to the O's here. And I just quickly get those going. I find that my tweezers work the best for this to help me hold this here. And by the way, the Maker's Movement does have a new alphabet set. I unfortunately don't have it. As soon as I do, I want to use it to create other great sentiments. Alright, so this is the basic layout of my card. I'm going to have my sentiment towards the bottom. My big guy here, he's going to cover our seam, like I said, and get him on there. Our little grumpy ghost over here, he's going to go all the way to the right. But I'm going to make sure his little arm pops up, because I'm going to add a little something there. And our little girl witch ghost here, she's going to go in the center. I'm using some foam adhesive to pop her up. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere our letters to the bottom. Putting a little bit of adhesive here, and this Burley Art glue with the precision tip is great for this. And yes, I know my sentiment is not quite centered, it's off center, but that's okay. This is supposed to be Halloween spooky card. Now we're going to bring in our embellishments. We have the Trick or Treats set first. And we're going to go ahead and add the little pumpkin jack-o'-lantern one here piece to my cranky ghost on the end here, on his arm. Then I'm going to go ahead and put little drops of the Burley Art glue throughout the card and start adhering some of the other little pieces that come in the shaker sprinkles set. So I go ahead and add some of the candy pieces, a few of the bats, a star, and another jack-o'-lantern over to the left-hand bottom set corner. The candy pieces come in shades of purple and orange and a greeny color. The stars come in these cool orange colors, and you have bats that are black. And so now I'm going to bring in the Witch's Brew, and this one has lots of different color sprinkles, green bats, so I'm going to bring in a few of those green bats in here. And I thought at first, oh, I should put the eyes on the big ghost, but he kind of looked too silly. So I know this is a whimsical card, but that was like a little too silly for me. So I went ahead and added it to the O's, so we have some scary eyes on the O's, and I'm going to add another little star right between the B and the O. So that should about cover it, except I put another star or two in the top left hand corner. Now that we are done with all that, I'm going to close my sprinkle bits because I don't want them to spill, and you can see our card is done. It's a little close up. As you can see, you can hardly tell the split there where we merged everything, and then we have all the little accents on our ghost. So again, we used the following: the Trick or Treat Yourself with her hat, the Slimline Essentials, the Tricks and Treats paper pad, that's a 6x6 paper pad, and the Spooky Buds die set, as well as our shaker sprinkles. Like always, I'll have everything in the description box below, so make sure you check it out. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you found some inspiration.